just jump right into the question that literally keeps corporate communications executives awake at night. Why does one campaign spark viral joy, while another triggers a relentless, out-of-control outrage mob? I mean, sometimes it really does feel like playing the lottery, right? But the truth is, virality isn't magic. It's not random chance. It is a highly structured mechanism of human psychology that's just playing out across digital networks.
Here is our roadmap for making sense of all this. We'll start with a viral outrage anomaly, look at individual mimicry at the micro level, interpersonal synchronization at the meso level, and algorithmic amplifiers at the macro level. Then we'll draw some wild parallels to psychogenic illness, and finally close out with actionable brand interventions.
Okay, Section 1. The viral outrage anomaly. The absolutely crucial foundational concept here is what's called the cascading resonance model. This is what proves that virality is really just a structural process of scaled influence. Basically, this model explains how a simple individual suggestion, combined with physiological resonance, seamlessly transitions into a synchronized, group-level behavioral cascade. It's exactly like a snowball rolling down a hill. What starts as this tiny, isolated emotional reaction hits a resonant frequency within a group and boom, it quickly cascades into an unstoppable avalanche of collective behavior. To really grasp this, we have to structure the evidence into 3 distinct classifications, which brings some much-needed rigorous science to how we understand psychological contagion. So at the micro level, it's all about individual suggestibility and mimicry. Then at the meso level, social appraisal steps in to give that raw emotion actual meaning. And finally, at the macro group level, algorithmic amplifiers and moralization pour gasoline on the fire. That's what creates those massive, non-linear cascades we see online.
And researchers are actually tracking these exact patterns. By using narrative synthesis to examine the qualitative academic records, we can pinpoint critical research gaps in how platform architecture fundamentally alters our emotions. That ensures we're accurately mapping the real digital pulse of these human networks.
Let's zoom in on that ground floor. Section 2. Micro-individual mimicry.
The key difference between the physical and digital world here is profound. In real life, face-to-face contagion relies on biological muscle mimicry. If someone smiles or frowns, your facial muscles subconsciously mimic them, a process called facial efference, which dictates blood flow to your brain and makes you actually feel that emotion. But digitally, there's no physical proximity. Instead, digital contagion is driven by algorithmic salience. The platforms use engineered engagement metrics to basically beam that emotion directly into our shared virtual attention.
Moving up a layer. Section 3. Meso-interpersonal synchronization. So interpersonal synchronization happens when our brains literally entrain to one another. You see, predictive coding models show that our brains don't just passively record the world, they actively predict it. When we interact with others, our shared expectations bias our sensory data. We literally sync up our perceptual reality, causing us to perceive things that align with the group's norm. Social appraisal then takes that raw, mirrored emotion and converts it into concrete social meaning. It's wild. Researchers tracking inner brain synchronization have found that our neural oscillations actually coordinate between people during these mutual interactions. And now, the big picture. Section 4. Macro-algorithmic amplifiers.
This is where things get incredibly volatile for brand managers. Algorithmic salience acts as this giant network amplifier, instantly converting localized individual mimicry into massive viral emotional trends. You have to remember, the platforms you manage your brand on are not neutral. Their recommendation engines actively prioritize content that maximizes high arousal and moral framing. Add in filter bubbles, and you get these intense feedback loops. Oh, and you can't forget the Streisand effect. If you try to suppress controversial content, the algorithms read that suppression as a powerful behavioral cue, ironically skyrocketing its visibility.
Which brings us to Section 5, parallels to psychogenic illness. To really grasp how severe digital contagion can be, we have to look at history. We have perfectly documented cases of mass psychogenic illness where pure suggestion cascaded into community-wide physiological responses. Take the historical outbreak in rural Nepal, for example. Pure verbal suggestion and visual exposure caused widespread physical and dissociative possession episodes among witnesses. The human mind's susceptibility to social suggestion is so incredibly powerful that contagious ideas can manifest as literal physical symptoms across an entire population.
And here is the scary part. The smartphone in your hand acts as a vector for digital mass psychogenic illness, exploiting those exact same cognitive vulnerabilities.
Online echo chambers basically recreate sick building syndrome by cultivating shared anxiety and hypervigilance. When algorithms synchronize our attention on a controversial post, it is literally the digital equivalent of watching a physical panic unfold in a crowded town square. Repeated exposure to this high arousal moral outrage fundamentally lowers our collective threshold, making extreme behavioral cascades easier and easier to trigger.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Section 6, Actionable Brand Interventions.
Let's start with a step-by-step guide to recognizing and interrupting your own personal behavioral mimicry in real time. Researcher Dr. Sigal Barsad proposed 4 simple habits. First, be aware. Actually notice your own mood and when you're feeding off external emotions. Second, go verbal. Pinpoint and openly address the source of the contagion. Third, don't look. Break your attention synchronization just by turning off the screen. And fourth, be thoughtful about curating a positive digital environment. These habits are absolutely essential for everyone, from everyday individuals trying to lower their susceptibility to framing effects, all the way to health professionals trying to manage and identify clinical burnout caused by emotional contagion.
Now, for the corporate executives, you must actively deploy intervention levers to protect your brand reputation. You can design systems that insert delay buffers to intentionally disrupt those reinforcing algorithmic feedback loops. Also, when you're crafting corporate messaging, actively dampen moralized framing. Keep the affective intensity low. Diversify where you're directing attention to reduce your brand's susceptibility to platform synchronization, and rigorously identify the emotional contagion hotspots hiding within your current communication strategy.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on next time you're looking at your content calendar. How are you unknowingly seeding emotional contagion within your own brand's digital ecosystem? Remember, you aren't just publishing text or video, you are transmitting psychological states. Thank you for digging into the mechanics of viral outrage with me today, and I challenge you to apply these insights to your very next campaign.